Auctions
Yes.
are not part of what you do.
Yes.
You prefer the silent auction
Yes.
approach. Why is that?
I believe there's a mathematical flaw in the traditional public auction process, and that is that when you've got one property and multiple buyers trying to buy that property, the one thing that you should never do is let your interested parties know what the competing bids are. So if you've got a property with a reserve price of $1 million and the two best bidders that you've got there on auction day are prepared to pay 1.1 and 1.2 respectively, I understand how the auction is going to take you from 950 up to 1.1 million past your reserve price. Now that sale is going to look really good at that point to the open market because it's $100,000 above the reserve price. But what I don't understand about the public auction system is the party that's prepared to pay 1.2 million is not going to give you 1.2 million when they see the next best buyer drop out at 1.1. They're going to give you 1.105, 1,110,000. So whilst you've sold well above the reserve as a seller, you've actually sold for $90,000 to $95,000 lower than the buyer who bought your home was prepared to pay. And we see that mathematical flaw play out in the public auction system every weekend.
I'm a licensed auctioneer. I've done a lot of auctions in the past, and firsthand I've seen the shortcoming with an auction. And that is, with an auction, the bidding is comparative. And by that I mean each buyer knows what everyone else is offering. And so you have this dynamic where everyone's just outbidding each other by a small amount.
Silent auction is a competitive method, and it's a key difference there, the fact that the buyers are competing without knowing what the other person's offering, so they're much more likely to put their absolute best foot forward to try and buy a home than just pip the person by $1,000.
So how does a silent auction work?
A silent auction works where the bidding is confidential. When we talk about emotion in a home buyer, it's important to recognise that an emotional home buyer is emotional about the property, not the process of sale. So the emotion that you see in a public auction is the same emotion that we see in a silent auction. But one thing that we never do is we never tell one party what another party is offered, because the moment you do that in a negotiation, the bidders stop offering what they're prepared to pay for the product and start trying to outbid the next competition, the next bidder by $1,000.
The major benefit for the owner is that the method actually gets the best price, and the way that it does it is that it has all the buyers competing, but the buyer who buys the property, there's always one buyer that stands out. The demand in a silent auction is that they pay their highest price.
Every time someone buys through an auction, I'll ask them, would you have paid more? When you woke up on Saturday morning, what were you prepared to go to? And when you ask that question, it just strengthens your conviction in what we're doing, because in most cases, people are getting it for less than they expected.
When buyers talk to me about a property, one of the first things they ask me is, have you had any offers? And can you tell me what they are? Buyers love to know what they've got to beat. So at a public auction, that's exactly what they get to see. They see what the underbid is. They've only got to go a little bit above that bid, and if there are no further bids, they'll buy it. Whereas with the silent auction, it's a competitive process where they don't know what they've got to beat.
But don't you think an auction amplifies the emotion? You can feel it in a room.
I've been to a number of auctions where there's anything but emotion. It's highly uncomfortable, where one party says, I'm not going to bid unless someone else does.
It doesn't have the theatre of an auction, but this isn't about theatre. This is about when someone gives us their property to sell, our job is to get as much as we can for it. And we can do that with a silent auction.
One of the things I say to people, you talk about risk in a campaign. How do you have an auction with one buyer? That's pretty uncomfortable. How do you have an emotional charged auction when one buyer is prepared to pay $1 million and the other's prepared to pay 1.1?